The film starts with 5 people waking up, chained and wearing metal masks, trying to understand their situation. A 6th person arrives, explaining that each has committed a serious sin and must play a game to earn forgiveness. To win, they must make a bloody sacrifice, as only blood will activate the green light. Blame begins as chains pull them toward a wall with a metal saw. Amidst screams for help, the 5th person faints, and one cuts her hand with the saw, turning her mask's red light green, allowing her to remove it. The saw stops, enabling others to make small cuts and free themselves. And the blame is known. The cat is blamed if it doesn't have it. The cat is blamed if it doesn't have it. The chains start pulling them towards the wall where there is an iron saw and people are screaming and asking for help from anyone, and all this while the 5th person loses consciousness, and indeed one of them cuts her hands with the saw, and at that moment the red light on the ceiling turns green and she is able to pull it off, and the iron saw stops, making the rest cut themselves with a simple wound like her, and indeed everyone cuts themselves and they succeed in finishing. They all finish this test except for the 5th person, who wakes up late and dies, and the next stage they start to get to know each other, and this girl tells them her name is Habiba and this is Rayano, and the second man is Mitch, and the last girl's name is Carol, and Habiba tells them that it's a good thing that this is a game, and Ryan asks her what it means, and Habiba tells him that as long as it's a game then we can win it. Here a toy comes to them riding a wheel and carrying a paper that says confess. The chain fruit comes back and pulls them back. Ryan tells them to confess to the worst thing they did. Mitch says that he sold the mute one and the man had an accident with him 10 minutes later, but he was not at fault. Habiba talks. She says that she broke his marriage contract, and Ryan tells them that their confession is not acceptable. Mitch sees the recording device on the game, so they take it and play it. Here, the chain stops and is stuck to the ceiling, and 3 graves descend from above. Each grave has a different number written on it. Mitch plays the audio recording and hears the same voice telling them that they will be forced to shed more blood and that each one will be held accountable for what he did. And Carl tells them that it is not only a lie and that she also deprived Shunt, and once she stole a heart patient and she was running after her dead, and Carl saw her dying instead of going to stab her, and the voice says to them, while you are unconscious I injected Carl with the killer's venom, and one of these needles contains the hangover and one contains saline solution and the third contains Hamad. If it reacts with the venom it will kill her, and he tells them to inject this killer with the health injection so that she will survive, and then the chains will be broken, and if they use the venom injection, and he asks them what life is worth to them. They all look at the grave, and Rayan takes the whole grave and tells her to give her the numbers and choose the grave we will inject her into, but she refuses and they pressure him to choose the grave, and the chains start pulling them up. Rayan injects her into the whole grave and she falls, and the chains come off and they are completed, and the grave falls and blood drips from every part of her, and then she dies. When is it difficult? And her heart blames Rayan and tells him, you are the one I don't understand, destroys the world between them, and takes the numbers on the grave and opens it. They open the door and they move on to the next stage. As they are looking for an exit from this place, Habiba asks Ryan, what mistake did you make? He replies, I used to sell bad houses, cheat on taxes and betray my wife, but I never betrayed a friend. Then he asks her, what mistake did you make? She tells him that she didn't do anything, it was her husband's mistake and he was the one who choked their son. At that moment, Ryan finds a door marked do not exit, so he goes to open it. Mitch and his girlfriend try to stop him and warn him not to break the game's rules, but Ryan doesn't listen. His foot gets caught in the wooden floorboard and gets stuck, with wires wrapping around his leg. Mitch and his girlfriend try to help him, but they can't. Mitch grabs a tape recorder, and when he plays it, they hear a voice telling them that they shouldn't take shortcuts in the game. And whoever chooses the rules of the game gets tired, and in order to untie Ryan's leg, they need to burn the device's hands. So Habiba and Mitch enter another room to look for a way out of the place and leave Ryan alone. There, they find a voice recording related to Mitch raising Habiba to get the voice recording. As soon as they take the door, he spat on them and the screen in front of them works, and the game owner tells them that they won against themselves and laughed at people with their throwing and blah blah and their thinking and their crimes, but despite that there is someone. He tells them that if Ryan, the owner of the device's hand, is buried alive before they are buried alive, then they will live. Suddenly sand falls on them and they start screaming and asking Ryan to accompany the device's hand. It starts falling on them in defiance until Ryan gets encouraged and accompanies the device's hand. His kick is cut off until in between Mitch and Habiba. While Habiba is treating a hot neighbor, Mitch finds a voice recording with his name written on it. As soon as he plays it, he finds himself hanging on a blade. The voice in the recording tells him that Mitch sold the bike as junk, even though he knew that its brakes were bad, and that the person who bought the bike was his son, who died because of what happened to him. He also tells him that this blade works with the same engine, the one who sold him the motorcycle, and that it could stop if he pulled the brake lever and the blade starts to spin it, and Mitch gradually goes down and tries to hold the brake lever, but he can't, and Habiba goes up to help him and puts a pole inside the wheel so the engine stops, but temporarily, and starts again, and the blade cuts Mitch into pieces until he dies, and Habiba is able to open the door that has the word no exit written on it after she breaks it, and Riam keeps calling her and telling her not to leave him alone. While she was trying to get out, someone came and injected her with a sleeping needle. She found herself tied up in a room with Ryan in front of her, and he was also tied up like her. Then the owner of the game, Bijar, removed the veil from his head and told them that John Kramer had injured Habiba. He revealed to them what they had done and said that Ryan was a young man who was tired and that because of his actions his friend died in an accident. He said that his friend was the reason, and Habiba, she killed her son after she strangled him and claimed that her husband was asleep when she killed their son, and her husband later hanged himself. He places a gun between them and tells them that the bullet is the key to survival, and the rules of the game this time are simple. All they have to do is do the opposite. The choice is up to them, and then he locks the door and leaves. Habiba grabs the gun and says, "You want us to kill each other? Is that the rules of the game?" She raises the gun at Ryan, who pleads with her not to kill him. So she tells him that this is the key to getting out of the game, which is to kill him. At the last moment, Ryan manages to speak and tells her that they are supposed to do the opposite, but it's too late. Habiba pulls the trigger and the bullet hits her in the head. As she dies, Ryan finds the keys to their survival inside the bullet. He cries and tells her, "You could have lived." The film ends with a message. If you like the film, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to get all the latest updates.